Good afternoon, everybody. Uh, oh, yay, excellent. Everyone's awake. Fantastic. Today we're going to be talking about the successful management of content management. And what that means, just in a nutshell, is the ability to understand sort of the non-technical pieces. There'll be some technology talked about, but what can we do better when we're deploying Joomla websites and how that work can go. And that is the wrong button. There we go. Oh, this is not working. That's because it's on the last slide. There we go. Excellent. My name is Robert Jacobi. I am president of ARC Technology Group. We are also a sponsor here at Joomla World Conference. I'm the founder and president of ARC Technology Group. And this is my contact information. You can always reach me at my personal email or on the Twitter account. And all these slides, they'll be made available after the conference as well. A little bit about ARC Technology Group. We believe that open solutions drive business success. We are a 15-year-old firm, having worked with open source technology from day one, having built our own content management system 15 years ago, and then moving into Mambo and Joomla 2004, 2005. We primarily, well, not primarily, but we work with Fortune 50 customers down to startups. Our experience has been with clients such as Microsoft, all the way down to small mom and pop shops, both nationally in the United States and globally. We're a Joomla-focused company. 100% of our business is based on using Joomla. We build Joomla websites and then do a lot of customization in the back end to integrate with third-party services, vendors, using all sorts of protocols and technologies. And we think we're pretty expert at doing this. Just a little bit of ARC contact information. That's our Twitter and our website, arctg.com. To the agenda. Excuse me. That is very loud on the mic. So we'll be talking about streamlining workflow, improving marketing, and growing sales as part of the management of content management. So let's start off with streamlining workflow. The keys to having successful deployment and utilization of Joomla is to plan for content management. There's also the implementation of both the actual application and the content, and then how do we actually get it out there? What is the deployment process that especially works for mid to enterprise-sized companies? When we look at planning for content management, and some of this ties into sales as well, going forward, we look at the target audience, the frequency of communication, what are your calls to action, and defining success. We hope everyone has a target audience that looks like this. That would make all of our jobs much more fun and entertaining. But that's not always the case. So we need to know, what are they interested in? Why are they coming to your website? Are the demographics important? And when are they coming to your website? So a lot of the work we do before we even get into the process of developing and deploying a website is to talk with the client, with designers and marketing employees at the company. Primarily, our companies deal with external designers even beyond us. We handle a lot more of the technology portion. But we walk through the process of what kind of people are expected, what kind of people are wanted to come and visit the website. One of our example clients is a industrial reseller of products. So if a factory goes bankrupt, they buy up the whole factory, and then they have online auctions. But they actually have two different clients. It's not just the people coming to buy maybe a crane or some ladders or hammers and nails. It's actually also the companies that are looking to sell their factory or warehouse to our client. So we need to make sure that we understand both the motivations and goals of those two different types of customers. Yes, and first and foremost, feel free to ask questions at any point. There'll be a couple of opportunities to ask in the middle of the presentation, but raise your hand and we can go at it. I cannot hear you, I'm sorry.
Can you elaborate on when are they coming to your website? Because internet is considered a 24/7 medium. People can come and visit the website anytime, 24/7. So you have put a fourth point. When are they coming to your website? So can you elaborate the importance of it?
Okay, so when are they coming to your website is the question, or elaborate on when are they coming to your website. Examples are they morning people? Do we have to refresh content more explicitly during the beginning of the day? Are they coming in the afternoon? Are they coming in the evening? Weekends or days of the week? And in those cases, we want to know, should we be more aggressive about the content that we're displaying, how that content is being displayed? So it's understanding, again, the client. So if it's on a weekend, you want to make sure that, depending on your company, that if you're having sales, if you're just a consumer-based website, maybe you want to make sure you show those sales on the weekends and don't waste them during the week. Or vice versa, if you don't get enough people during the week, that's when you put the sales and then attract them through other marketing means. So whether it's through print or Twitter or email, newsletter campaigns. So again, it's just part of understanding when your visitors are coming and what you can do with that content. Which leads in perfectly to the frequency of communication. So this ties into, are you talking to your visitors hourly, daily, even just maybe weekly? So maybe it's not that kind of site that has a lot of turnover in content. What we've found through a lot of statistics and research is that there's also very interesting social media statistics around that. So you'll see that on Facebook, it's best to, at least in the United States, so there's going to be cultural differences on how some of this works, that Thursday and Friday are the best times to post information to Facebook to drive visitors to your website. That's people at the end of the week, they have time to more play on the internet, and they're more likely then to also click through. So it's not just everyone's going to look every day at their Facebook account, but Thursday and Friday, where there's a little more breathing room after the end of the week, there's more likelihood that they'll click through. Twitter is also very fascinating in the US. Again, it's mostly people are utilizing it during their commutes to and from work. So if they're on public transportation, on the bus, they're more likely to do that, as well as lunch. Again, they have shorter periods of time to review things, but more likely to be actioned on. And that's a good time to put your message out there, especially with Twitter or Facebook, where you have scrolling feeds. And if no one's going to be searching for you, you'll miss your content. Email in the United States is particularly effective in the afternoons on weekdays, as well as on weekends, depending on your customers. We found on the B2B side that sending out newsletters Saturday and Sunday morning is when you'll more likely get an executive, because they're always checking their email, but at those points they're also more likely to be able to spend the time to respond and review to that kind of content. For blog posts and articles, we found that Monday mornings are a great time to actually post that content up, let it get hit by the search engines, get a little traction, and then follow up throughout the week using, again, Twitter and Facebook to really generate that content throughout the week. There's a great link. Let's see if I can pop out here, that shows some of these statistics. Move this over here. Oops. There we go. So there's a service called Buffer App. There are other ones like Hootsuite and things like that, but Buffer App specifically allows you to utilize multiple social media links, and they have a number of statistics on one of their blog posts about, again, when is a great time to feed your Buffer App with content. And so you can set it up to push out any time of day and different content and have it repeat, and it also has a lot of tracking and to follow up and see how effective your campaigns are. So now that you've got your message going, you know what to do with it, what do you want people to do? We talk about calls to action. So with a lot of the content, social media links we're looking at, we want someone to click on something. You know, through social media, we generally want them to click on a link to get to our sites to review and do additional actions on that content. A lot of the time, it's to buy something. Is it going to be a shop? It's very simple. Someone sees something that they want, they can click through, buy it, and get to it. Sometimes you need them to buy into a bigger service or sales cycle, but again, another call to action. You want them to buy. And a lot of this, you want to make sure they can do this as quickly and easily as possible. Maybe you want them to post. Maybe you want them to retweet your content and share that information to help drive other marketing statistics for your company. Which leads to defining success. What does that mean? So obviously click, buy, post, you know, a lot of that's going to tie into sales. So again, figure out what sales are expected, plan that out. A lot of this is still in the planning stages before we get to it. Some of it almost seems business 101, but when people build websites, they forget that they still need to think of their business 101 rules. Maybe you want social media shares as success. So I want to have 1,000 retweets. How do I make that happen? I want Facebook and all of that. Engagement, and we find this is actually a very important tool for business-to-business success, and that is how do we get someone to call us or email us or give us their contact information so we can follow up with them and be immediately accessible. And what's nice about this, it really starts to build trust when you go through the process of making sure you have an idea of what's the call to action, what's the definition of success, and planning for all those tools. And now we have a moment for questions. The sneaky slide is also here so I can take a breath because I kind of talk quickly through my presentation. Yes, please. Louder, please.
Suppose we have Microsoft as a client.
Yes.
We are developing a website for their technical conference. So success, how do we define success?
So it depends on the project. That's a very good question. Let me repeat it. So we have Microsoft as a client. How do we define success with working with a big business-to-business partner like Microsoft? Arc Technology Group is the official provider of the Joomla package for Microsoft Azure. So our success in that case is, can we make sure that we deliver updates as quickly and timely as possible so that as soon as it launches on Joomla.org that there's a version already available on Microsoft? And secondarily, what are the downloads? What are the statistics? And we also try to evangelize, if you're going to be on Microsoft, I'm not telling everyone to go to use Microsoft Azure and those services, but if you are, you should be using Joomla because it is available, it is timely, it is updated, and it is a great, fantastic content management system. So part of the success that we put into that is knowing, A, that it's timely, and B, that it's being utilized if that's an option for people. One question? Anything else? All righty. Let's dive into actual implementation. So we'll get just slightly technical as we go through the slides. Sorry, that is still so loud. We choose Joomla. We've loved Joomla. It is fantastic. We also utilize, as part of our implementation process, the Atlassian suite of services. And we'll also talk a little bit about template development and what that means for us when we're working on websites. Oh, and extensions. We'll go through some of the basic extensions that we think everyone should utilize. And there's really only a few that we think are just absolutely critical for everyone's website if you're running Joomla. So why Joomla? Well, you're all here already, so you know at least something about Joomla, but we still like to talk about it. It's critical for our success, and we feel the success of anyone who uses Joomla, that it's open source. And it's not just open source because there's code available, but it also gives, especially larger clients, a comfort level knowing that if Arc Technology gets blown off the coast of Chicago because of our terrible winters, that there is a completely huge repository of people all over the world who can support that. And it's also easy. We find that not only is just basic deployment very easy to do, and it has been for 10 years, and in fact, one of the reasons we started using it so long ago, one of the keynotes, or actually in the panel yesterday at the end of the day, mentioned that they had tried WordPress and Drupal in 2004 and 2005, and really the only thing that actually worked out of the box was Joomla. And that's always been a very good selling point, as well as the consistency. So moving from one version to another, a lot of backwards compatibility is maintained. Extension developers are very quick to migrate their tools. And the comfort and training that we can do around the backend administrator is very consistent, because that has never really changed dramatically. There's always nice updates, and as technology improves, it goes forward. But that is one of the very nice successful points about Joomla. For development, we use the Atlassian suite of services. So this one's a raise of hands. How many people have heard of Atlassian? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. Atlassian is a suite of services that ties in the entire development process. Everything from having a communication layer, a Wikipedia or wiki setup, as well as source control and issue management, ticket management. We've reviewed other services, for example, like Teamwork and Basecamp, but none of them integrate all the tools as well as Atlassian does. There are many other tools, but for the complete comprehensive nature of it, it's been fantastic. I think Joomla, the JED, Sarah, do you recall who's using? Tessa's group is using Jira as well now. So even parts of Joomla are now using portions of the Atlassian suite. One of the critical components is Jira. That's an issue and task management system. It allows you to easily put in a list of items that need to be developed out or could be connected to tech support. Allows you to track when people have done their work, what stage in the process it is, how much time has been spent. Atlassian also has a product called Bitbucket. Nothing fancy, it's just Git. It's just their version of Git. They call it Bitbucket, and again, another nice feature is that it's tied directly to your Jiras, so your Jira tickets, so you can actually see the rollouts for every build and know which tickets are applied to every build. So if there's an issue with the build, you can see the one-to-one correlation that, oh, the menu wasn't working, that went in build 107A, and then you can just follow that process along. Here's a quick little screenshot of Jira. We've hidden names to protect the innocent, but you'll notice that there's a lot of space for ticket summaries and status, stage of progress, who's assigned to it, so very critical. It's also tied into tempo time management. So a lot of our work is consulting, so there's a lot of time and materials, as well as internally we want to know how successful our estimates are. And you can see here that you can create an issue, the issue type, so you can set all sorts of configurations and manage that, and then tie it into tempo timesheet management, which is also part of the Atlassian suite of services. So again, a very comprehensive suite that allows you to be very detailed in exactly what you're doing and know where the project is at all points in time. And this is an example of Bitbucket. So there's content pages around that, but at the end of the day, you can go see all the branches and source code just as you would on Git, and it ties into any Git client you may be using for development. On the template development side of things, we really like to keep it simple. We really recommend utilizing as empty a template as possible. We have a default template internally that we use to start off any development work for any client, and it is as bare bones as you can imagine. This minimizes, code feature bloat. It's more secure because we know all the pieces that are in it. So just start out with, with the few simple headers you find in your default Joomla templates, and get rid of all the cruft, and then you can really have much more control. We recommend Bootstrap. Bootstrap's already in Joomla, obviously, and we always grab the latest version of Bootstrap. So we're not relying on where it is in the Joomla side of the world, but we directly link either to the CDN or self-host the latest versions of Bootstrap to make sure we're just getting the most features and functionality. Build responsively. This is, I don't know how much of a rule it is everywhere, but certainly in the States, as we do more and more development, it's just critical that we are building responsive websites to take advantage of tablets and phones and watches and cars, and who knows what will be available. So making sure there's a development and Q&A process to do the development and then also walk through and test all of that. Extensions. First and foremost, backup, 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 backup. How do we back up? We back up in multiple different ways. But the easiest way to do it with Joomla, just right out of the box, is Akiba. It's fantastic. If you don't know about it, just go, just get it, install it, utilize it. There's no excuse not to have it. It creates a single, simple package of your entire website, and it's very easy to redeploy, really easy to push off to a different FTP server to have in case of emergency, whatever your backup process is. Make sure you have one, both on just regular server maintenance, but as well as a quick way to really redeploy. And you never know how valuable that backup is until it's too late. So the other portion of that is making sure you test your backups. So again, Akiba makes that very easy because you can create an Akiba backup, have a separate staging server, throw it on there, see if it works. If it does, you're great. You'll be ready for that emergency. We like Arc Editor a lot. We think that's the best GUI editor available for Joomla. So we utilize that for all of our clients. It's ARK, not related to Arc Technology Group, but it's the most flexible and feature-filled editor. And then back to our friends at Akiba, Admin Tools. Admin Tools provides a lot of functionality for controlling and maintaining the Joomla website for security, and just sort of it's a toolbox of utilities that really strengthens and shores up your website. If you haven't seen Arc Editor, here's just a quick little slide of what Arc Editor looks like. Full WYSIWYG drag and drop editor environment. As Joomla upgrades, we know that I think in 3.5, 3.6, there'll be drag and drop for the default editor in Joomla, but this is already supported in Arc Editor. Inline editing in your page, much more friendly than dealing with little article sections and modules. You can really just edit the page as you want. Next, deployment. How do we get this out there? So you've spent the time to plan out your website. You know the results you want to get. You've built it. Where are you going to put it? So traditionally, we see at the mid to enterprise level, you're looking at things like Azure, Rackspace, Amazon, Rockin, SiteGround, other very popular Joomla hosts. So figure that out and know all the tricks that may be around that. Do you have multiple environments? Do you have a development, staging, and production environment? Please don't do your work on production, please. Especially many smaller website companies are just, we'll just make the changes right there, on production. Everything will go wrong. It will. One day, and it'll really kick you in the butt. So the key is to have a staging environment at a minimum to understand, okay, if we make a change to content here, if we make a change to a new module, if we do an update or an upgrade, let's look at it on staging, and then not necessarily run it on production, but actually copy staging to production. Staging should always be the most secure backup you have, because that should be the most recent, at least functionality-wise. A lot of content you're going to have separate databases so you don't overwrite data, but at least on a functional level, it should be an exact copy of what's on production. So if there's even an emergency, you can always push or pull everything from staging. One of the nice things about the Atlassian suite of services, or even, I shouldn't say Atlassian, but Git or Bitbucket or whatnot, Azure and some other hosting providers allow you to directly pull from your branches. So you can have a staging branch, and your staging server is always pulling from stage. When that's ready, you migrate it and merge it into master. Your production server can then pull from that master branch. So you have your code safe in a separate repository. You have your staging server. You have your production server. And with Git, you can obviously have a million branches on your laptops and development environments. How are you going to do this? So I've kind of already gone through some of the basic ones. Using Git, of course, you can FTP, or SFTP. But we definitely prefer a Git Bitbucket rollout process because then you can always make sure you have the right code, the right release per branch. Excuse me. Time for another ostrich. Any questions? How many people here are using Git for their Joomla deployments in any way, shape, or form? We really recommend it. It's a great way to have just another step in that backup process. You're going to have your code on a separate level of service. Oh, see, perfect. But that's for the whole site. But sometimes you're working on code. If you're doing a custom extension or something, you're going to want to deploy that from your source code repository.
Yeah, hi, my name is Abhishek, and my question is, what is the easiest way to stage something, like especially Joomla code?
So our preferred environment is actually on Azure, and
But most of the users in here is not much friendly about
well, you can do the same thing. I don't know if most people are self-hosting through smaller hosts or Amazon. Are people using AWS for?
Basically, cPanel-based hosting is most popular in here.
So with cPanel, you're going to want to.
Amazon, you can do that, but like Bluehost or HostGator or something like that. No,
I didn't catch that last part.
Bluehost or HostGator.
Okay.
Hosting like that. SiteGround.
So if you're going to use SiteGround, I think is more flexible on this. But if you're going to use like a HostGator, you're really going to want to set up two websites.
Yeah. Manually. Is there any tool for that?
I'm sorry?
Is there any tool for staging, or we have to manually copy the files and database? What is the easiest way of staging in these hosts?
Okay, now I understand the question. So what is the easiest way of managing sort of a stage in a production environment with a host not like Azure, but more that's cPanel driven? In that case, we have two separate databases. So the staging and production actually have their own separate databases because usually production data is going to be different, especially if you're getting feedback and information from your clients or from your visitors. The perfect scenario there is if there's an update to software, we're going to run the update on staging. So say it's a new version of Joomla. We'll go into the staging environment. We'll click the super easy auto update button or manual update. Let's go from 3.4.1 to 3.4.2. Let that happen. Make sure all the features and functionality are as we expect. And then we will actually, and we'll see how long it is, and we'll have a window that will manage that in production. So maybe it's going to be 1 in the morning, and we'll have a 15-minute window where the site is offline to make that happen and then put it back online. That's the easiest way for something like if you're using HostGator.
And another question is, say for example, you have your staging environment, but at the same time, live environment, the live website, the production website is also updating. New users are coming to the website, they are registering on there. So how to merge these two versions effectively?
Well, you're never merging because you're going to have your separate database on staging.
Uh-huh.
So if you need to, in that kind of HostGator environment, copy content, it's copied and manually edited on the production site, just like you would on, however you put it onto the staging, you're going to repeat the process on production.
Okay.
So that's the key to find out what are the steps you took to implement the changes on staging, and then walk through those on production.
But if we made any changes in the core tables of, say, for example, users in the staging environment, then what is the best way to merge the database structure changes or something?
So we run SQL scripts.
Okay.
So, or MySQL scripts. So we're going to go into the console, and we're going to have a script package. Either we'll run it directly from a MySQL text file script, or we'll put it into a PHP page that runs that set of scripts to make those database updates. We don't use something like PHP MyAdmin or anything like that because that can actually take long. If we can build out the actual page and understand exactly the timing, that's going to run so quickly as opposed to go into PHP MyAdmin, click on the tables, find the row, add the column, and all that. We never do that, especially on production. We may, if we're going to do that on development environments, fine. But on staging and production, we're running scripts, either PHP or just straight MySQL command line scripts.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. That was a very good question. And it gets very complicated as sites blow out. So we find we rely on building scripts throughout the process all the time. For some of our deployments, actually the entire Joomla package has been recreated as a set of scripts, because in the install directory, when you first get Joomla, you see a bunch of SQL text files. So you can use a lot of that already to help build out the core on a production server, and then we modify those and add whatever data that needs to whenever we do additional changes. Any more questions? Okay. Improving marketing. And now that we've gone through what we want to have happen, we've implemented and deployed. They're done already. We want to look at it, what it is about the marketing around that to help manage the content management. We look at the evaluation of the marketing material. What did we put together? Why are we putting it together? We're asking ourselves the same questions we asked back in the beginning of the process. What do we need to modify? Are there things that we have to review? Are we hitting what we want as success and goals? And why is that not happening? And then the actual engagement process. Do we need to change that? Do we need to update just even the way we're communicating with people? What do we need to change? Do we actually need to change our development process and deployment process? Are we not getting things out in a timely manner? Have the objectives even changed? And we really look for continuous improvement throughout the process. Here's a great slide, which is going to be completely unreadable on this screen, so please make sure to download the slides. It's from a company called Email Delivered, and they show how crazy and circuitous the process can be. But there's a lot of iteration throughout the whole process. So you're going to start with your core information and metrics and data, and then you're going to iterate and iterate and iterate. Oops, I'm going to block the screen, so I don't want to do that. But you'll see processes that are very circular in every section here. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? And then repeat. Start again. We find we use this process a lot for newsletters and campaigns to see how successful things are. And we hope that, of course, at the end of the day, this all grows sales. So important is, again, to follow the cyclical nature of constant review and iteration, respond to what the customer needs. Are you getting the traction and success that you're looking for, or are your customers telling you something else? Are they not going to your page? Are they not going to the page you want to? Are they staying on to not long enough on your website? So, at the end of the day, make sure you have what the customer wants, and then adapt to what the customer wants throughout the process. Questions again? No problem. This is normally where it's kind of the presentation winds down, but for Joomla World Conference 2015, we actually have something extra. So we've been reviewing Joomla and all the things that we feel can make it a lot better for our customers, hopefully many others. So we recently launched just a couple of days ago. When I say launched, we've told people about it. A new product that'll be out in 2016 called Inkwell. Inkwell kind of changes the dynamic of how content should be looked at and understood. So we believe that there needs to be a single source of truth for all content on a website. And when we say all content, we mean the text, the body, the message that's going out there. Right now, you see with a lot of content management systems that you have multiple fields for data. I need a subject, I need a title, I need a summary, and you're filling in blocks and blocks of text, and that text becomes trapped and difficult to reuse throughout the internet. You need to set up extra components and extra fields and extra tags and extra plugins to make sure that, if I make a change here, how do I get it out to Twitter? Or am I just copying and pasting and then posting a link back, or Facebook? Or does the company have another website that maybe it's not even Joomla-based, or maybe it's a Joomla-based website? It needs the content. How do we share that content across the two websites? So they may have a microsite that needs to repurpose and reuse that content. And also to your question a few minutes ago, what's the best way to manage that content across multiple deployment environments? Dev, staging, production. Joomla is not very flexible with managing. It gets complicated about how to do the scripts and how to make sure content is equal across the board. With Inkwell, you deal with the text content. You drop your content how you want it in. Inkwell analyzes, pulls out all the tags so you have the raw text of the content. It then applies meta information in a set of separate tables. So Inkwell knows what the content should look like on your Joomla site or on your staging site, but you just have to deal with the text. And then additionally, you can take that one block of text, highlight. I want that first sentence highlighted. That's going to be the title of the page. I want the first 4 sentences highlighted. That's going to be the summary for the blog. I want the whole content to be whole content for click-through on a blog. I may want the first 120 characters for a tweet. Go in, select the text. All that information is stored in Inkwell in a separate set of meta tables, and the content remains pure and repurposable. So that means you can easily import and export it any way you want and connect that up to multiple deployment environments. So that content can be tied to staging and production. And then it can also be tagged for all sorts of other interactions and interactivity. We believe this is the future of managing Joomla because it'll make it more scalable, more extensible for how the web grows. To learn more, right now, you can just go to our Twitter and just follow Go Inkwell. The product right now is being evaluated by a couple of internal clients to our technology group on a very private level, and we will be slowly releasing and announcing invites for public beta in January of 2016. So follow along if that kind of content management extension scalability is interesting to you. Let us know and we'll get you a ticket for a little private alpha and beta. And now that officially is the end of the show. If there's any more questions, feel free to ask here or catch me throughout the afternoon at the event. And I won't keep you from lunch because I know that's coming up in like 4 minutes. Thank you very much.